time now for yet another look at what's making headlines in the international papers, and for that I'm joined once again on set by Laurent Berthache. Hi, Laurent.
Hi, Haxi.
We're starting again in China, where millions of people are returning from holidays, and in fact an extended holiday that was meant to quell the spread of the coronavirus epidemic in China. Tell us more about that.
Well, it is the day that economic activity is supposed to resume across the country. And as the Global Times puts it, it's an English-speaking Chinese daily. It's now a decisive time for the country in the fight against this coronavirus. Basically, travel is going to resume across the country. This holiday had been extended for a few more days to prevent people from taking the train and traveling while the epidemic was on. And now, even though economic activity won't resume fully, people will start taking the train and traveling. And the newspaper argues it is really the time for authorities to be extremely vigilant, to conduct health checks on a regular basis. Basically, it's now a crunch time for China.
And Chinese authorities coming in for a lot of criticism for the way they handled the coronavirus outbreak, especially in the early days. That coming from the French press as well today.
Well, that's right. There's been a lot of investigations by French journalists, and today it's making a lot of headlines, starting with Libération, a French daily, which says when censorship kills, talking about the way China dealt with the coronavirus. Now, in this article, there's an investigation showing that authorities have sought to downplay the dangers and maybe the scale of the spread of the virus, and have deliberately hidden or withdrawn information from the public to that end in order to minimize repercussions, economic repercussions, and also to its image. And the article argues that has only made matters worse, as it cites the example of a doctor, Li Wenliang, who first warned the authorities about the virus in December and was then silenced, encouraged to shut up about this virus, and he now passed away on Friday of the coronavirus. We can see a similar argument to that of Libération in another French daily, Les Echos, which says the limits of Xi Jinping's political system are being tested now by this epidemic. The same argument that these authoritarian methods used to basically rein in the information surrounding this virus could now actually pose a global health hazard.
OK, well, time now to talk cinema. We've just had the 92nd ever Oscars ceremony in Hollywood. What were the highlights for you, Laurent?
Well, undeniably, this year's main story is Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, which won Best Picture and 4 awards, including Best Picture, and becoming the first foreign film ever to win this prestigious award. According to Vulture, it's a watershed moment, and the article points out several ways in which Parasite made history. As we said, it's the first foreign language film to make Best Picture. It's also the first time since No Country for Old Men, which came out in 2007, 13 years ago, that a filmmaker won Best Screenplay, Best Picture, and Best Director at the same time. And the first time since Slumdog Millionaire that a movie won Best Picture without receiving any acting awards.
OK, well, streaming service Netflix had a few films in competition. Didn't do as well as they were hoping tonight.
Well, more than a few. It actually had 24 nominations, the most of any production studio. And, according to The Verge, they're the big losers of the Oscar ceremony. They did win 2 awards, Best Documentary for American Factory and Best Supporting Actress for Laura Dern in Marriage Story. But its 2 biggest films, The Irishman and The Two Popes, won absolutely nothing, which was definitely a disappointment for the studio. Another upset of these awards came from the movie Joker, which was the most nominated movie going into the ceremony, but it only won 2 awards, Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix and Best Original Soundtrack.
Now, this year's nominations were, in advance, rather criticised for being what some people deemed too predictable. Now that we've had the results, what do critics say?
Well, there are a lot of different opinions, of course, but one that is becoming more and more popular is that the Oscars are beginning to lose their relevance and their appeal, with the New York Post saying that besides Parasite's quadruple win, there was little in ways of entertainment at this year's ceremony. The article slams it as a self-congratulatory award that was, boring, save for a few bright spots, including Eminem's performance. And the author says this year's edition did nothing to, and I quote, revive our waning interest in this annual puffery.
Well. Turning now to Colombia for our last story, where the offspring of a group of hippos purchased by drug lord Pablo Escobar have been making headlines. Tell me more, Laurent.
Well, I have to say, when I saw this headline in the Los Angeles Times, it really immediately caught my attention. The headline goes, "Chasing Colombia's Cocaine Hippos." Now, for the backstory, drug kingpin Pablo Escobar used to own a private zoo with giraffes, elephants, and, of course, 4 hippos. And when he was killed in 1993, all the animals were rescued or acquired by private collectors, except for the hippos, which were considered too unwieldy and dangerous, and which were basically left free to roam in the wild. Now, 27 years later, there are an estimated 80 to 100 hippos roaming and free in Colombia, all descending from these 4. And scientists estimate there could be thousands in 20 years' time. And that's becoming a problem since hippos are actually, contrary to the perception, quite aggressive animals. They can be dangerous to humans, but also to wildlife, as they tend to contaminate ponds of water, lakes, and rivers. However, there is still a lot of hesitation in Colombia as to what to do with these hippos. Should they hunt them? Should they sterilize them? And a lot of locals are opposed to that. Firstly, because of as I said, the image of hippos as a friendly animal, which they really aren't, but also of the idea that there could be some sort of tourism related to those hippos, people coming to see the cocaine hippos.
And if you are headed to Colombia to see the cocaine hippos, watch out, they're not as friendly as they seem.
They are not.
Laurent Pêcheur, with a look through the international papers. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alexia.